Professor Cynical made it clear. There's only one thing that I could do to prove my loyalty to the Crayola Kingdom, and that's bring him Captain Steve's head. Hey travelers, welcome back to Ghostlight. In my last video, I addressed a rumor that had been circulating around the Light No Sky planet, that Ghostlight was secretly a Crayola spy. It seemed no one knew for sure. Once my video went live, Cynical immediately put out a kill order on me, only to roll it back shortly after, saying in order to prove my fealty to the Crayola Kingdom, I was to take down Captain Steve. Now the captain put out a video of his own, warning the 07 Brew crew of my turncoat activities.
Well, how do there, chums? 'Tis I, Captain of the Steves. There's been a bit of news. Ghostlight took out a member of the 07 Brew crew in his latest video. Now, I've made everybody aware that this has taken place instead of the 07 Brew crew. I've said if Ghostlight opens fire on any members of the 07 Brew crew to fire back. In fact, fire back first. Yeah, get the first shot in.
Even putting out a kill order of his own and creating this catchy little ditty.
Come back, Ghostlight. Come back by night. Ghost, if you're a double agent, please don't die. And if you're a Crayola, that means you was an 07 spy. Have to part ways and say goodbye. Come back, Ghostlight. Come back my night.
So there I was, all dressed up and nowhere to go. Anyway, yesterday, I decided to do a midday live stream, hoping to catch some of our friends from across the pond. I didn't really have a plan. I just was going to go about my daily rounds, harvesting tech and nanites, and just basically see what shook loose. Now, you can imagine my surprise when both Captain Steve and Professor Cynical showed up in my chat. Awkward. And they immediately started to negotiate terms. And a deal was struck. I was to battle Captain Steve at his 07 arena. Now, if I won, Captain Steve would have to delete his base again and start anew, just as he normally would. But if he won, I had to come back to the 07 Brew crew and resume my duties as his knight. So this was it. This was my chance to prove myself to Professor Cynical and the Crayola Kingdom and take down Captain Steve. Now, because up until recently I had been a part of his crew, I knew the good captain had been working towards building up his multi-tool. He had just gotten a glimpse at what Professor Cynical's multi-tool could do, and I think it was a bit of an eye-opener for us all, really. And I had been doing the same, but I was at a disadvantage. Faction leaders were granted the Atlas Scepter. Now this is one of the most powerful multi-tools in game, offering the highest buff to damage. Now I had a pistol, and you guessed it, offering some of the lowest damage in game. Now I had upgraded my pistol to S-Class, and I sourced enough X-Class modules for each of my weapon systems up to that point. But still, I was certain I was no match for the Captain's Scepter. My only chance was to use other tactics to evade and move. Hit where I could, give him the old stick and move, so to speak. Now, this fight went just as expected. The Captain primarily used his Pulse Spitter and Plasma Launcher, both potentially offering burn damage. I alternated between my Blaze Javelin and Bolt Caster. Now, my caster and its upgrades occupy all of my supercharged slots, but the recoil makes it difficult to land a hit from a distance. I leaned heavily on my personal force field, which draws from your life support tanks. Now this is fantastic for direct hits, but does little to nothing for the burn damage that he was inflicting, which meant he had found an impact igniter for his spitter. And I did what I could, but in the end, the burn damage was too great, and the captain was named the victor. In keeping with their deal, I was to return home to the Brew crew and resume my duties as his knight. But there was a problem. I couldn't return home to the Brew crew. because I had never left. Having lost the battle, there was no longer any reason for the subterfuge. It was time to come clean. When the professor outed me as a spy, many of you were confused, and almost no one believed him, which was nice. Thank you for that. Even with so many people confused, no one was more confused than I. Because if there was one thing that I was certain of, it's that I wasn't his spy. Clearly, this was a move to sow some dissent amongst the brew crew, but was there a way to spin this to our advantage, even if only as a distraction? So, I ran with it. One of the first things I did was talk to Captain Steve, who I kept in the loop about my plan all along the way, making this performance more Oscar-worthy than anyone watching was truly aware. But even with that, the only people who knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that I wasn't a spy was me and Professor Cynical. Now, he couldn't be convinced that I was a spy. It wasn't true. But maybe he would buy that I was a turncoat. So, how could I convince Cynical that I had defected? Well, I'd have to kill a member of the brew crew on video. But I didn't want to kill any of my teammates. So I made one up. Meet Vake. Now, Vake is my newly renamed alt account over on Xbox Cloud Gaming. Vake was created with the sole purpose of being Blaze Javelin to death on video. Now, I pronounced his name Vike in the video because I thought Vake sounded fake. Makes sense. Now, after I posted the video of me gunning down a member of the O7 Brew crew, I knew the professor would be keeping an eye on the captain's Discord. So I asked Stormageddon if he would help me with my charade and tell everybody that I shot at him. And this wasn't a lie. We had been testing multi-tool tech earlier that day, so I kind of was shooting at him. Slowly, we began to see people buy into this little bit of theater, but it seemed that either my show wasn't convincing, or that accepting me as one of their own was just too much of a risk for the professor to take. Because here we are. Now, the only regret that I have is that I ended the ruse before taking out any members of the Crayola Kingdom. Not the professor, not one of his knights, no one. But after the stream, I thought, what better way to set the O7 Brew crew's minds at ease than hunting down a member of the Crayola Kingdom? So I went to work. First, I went after Roger Roberts, aka Default Controller, over on Discord, but he found refuge in a trade post. And though we can fire weapons inside a trade post, I didn't know. I didn't want to break the rules, so I just let him be. Now, I did see Upshot online, but I wasn't able to catch up with him, and I kept my eye on their Discord, and they flatter me, really. Finally, I had met up with my old nemesis from Season 1, Crayola Knight and Grand Architect, Bubukty, who I'd been calling Bubukty, so sorry about that. After a little harassing fire and some light smack talk on Discord, Boo Boo switched to PvP, and she was ready to settle this grudge match. Now, having learned from my battle earlier in the day, I was keeping my distance. I knew my kryptonite was burn damage, and I didn't know what upgrade she was packing. Boo Boo made great use of the terrain as cover, and her cloaking device made it really difficult to keep a beat on her as she moved throughout the landscape, despite the giant marker following her around. Now, she survived an onslaught of plasma grenades and countless Blaze Javelin hits. But, in the end, Ms. Boo Boo Kitty's 9 lives ran out, and this night became just another ghost haunting the landscape of Light No Sky. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. The biggest of shoutouts to my YouTube members at the Riftwalker tier, BiosF2, and Ragin' Furball. And my friend entities as well. I'm Ghost, and as always, dear Riftwalkers, I'll see you tonight.
Preposterous The anomalous defy the cosmic kiss, navigating rifts where faint-hearted in the thought of this. Polo and nada in every iteration, old school pioneers on a celestial staycation. From black holes unfold the starlight truth told, where mystery sold we boldly go through portals. So if you seek some asylum